Vera verto. Vera verto sounds like an important spell, but it's almost entirely useless. We first see it in the Sorcerer's Stone when Professor McGonagall teaches her class to turn animals into water goblets. It's a neat visual trick, but beyond that, it's completely pointless outside the classroom. While it might show how precise a wizard is in casting a transfiguration spell, it doesn't go beyond that. Also, transforming animals into dinnerware isn't exactly practical, and it's definitely not something you'd see anyone use in a duel. It's the magical equivalent of learning to fold a napkin into a swan. Looks nice, teaches you precision, but you'll never need it again. If anything, Vera verto exists to show us how detailed and oddly specific transfiguration can be. Otherwise, this spell is textbook-level fluff, pure magical busywork. Mobiliarbus. Mobiliarbus is a weirdly niche cousin of Wingardium Leviosa. You'd think wizards would just use the basic levitation charm for everything. But no, apparently they needed a separate version just for wooden objects. Hermione uses it once, discreetly, to hide Harry behind a Christmas tree during the scene where the teachers and Cornelius Fudge are gossiping about Sirius Black. And that's literally it. One appearance. What makes Mobiliarbus useless isn't that it doesn't work, it does. It's redundant. You already have a levitation spell that moves anything. Why invent one that only works on wood? It's like inventing a car that only drives on Tuesdays. Still, it adds a bit of magical flavour to the world. Anteoculatia. Anteoculatia is exactly the kind of nonsense you'd expect Fred and George Weasley to use on unsuspecting students. You point your wand, shout the spell, and suddenly someone has a full pair of deer antlers growing out of their skull. It's more embarrassing than dangerous. It's absolutely useless. It doesn't help in battle, it doesn't solve any problems, it doesn't even have comedic payoff beyond, haha, antlers. And imagine the awkward aftermath. Does the spell wear off immediately? Do you have to counter it manually? How do you explain to Madame Pomfrey that someone sprouted a rack of horns because of a hallway jinx? Definitely a useless spell, but an amusing one. Avis. Avis sounds like something a powerful wizard would use. Who wouldn't want to conjure birds at will? But it's about as useful as a fireworks display. It's not even a strong distraction spell unless your enemy has a bird phobia. Its most memorable appearance is when Hermione angrily conjures a flock of birds that she later sends flying at Ron after he hooks up with Lavender Brown. So while Avis looks cool, it's not practical for combat or real-world use. It's a mood spell, it's flair, a visual metaphor in feathered form. Think of it as the wizarding equivalent of slamming a door when you're angry. Dramatic, but not exactly game-changing. Cantis. Cantis is one of those spells that feels like it was invented during a wizard frat party. You cast it and whoever you hit breaks out into spontaneous song, no control, no rhythm. Just full-on enchanted karaoke. Now, in a duel, maybe this would be funny for about 3 seconds. Your opponent tries to hex you, but suddenly they're singing instead. Hilarious? Yes. Effective? Not really. There's also the question of tone. What happens if you cast Cantis on someone in a serious moment? They start singing during a funeral, during exams. It's chaotic energy at its finest. So why does this spell exist? Probably to remind us that wizards are still human. They like jokes, pranks, and ridiculous magic that serves no real purpose. And that's part of what makes the wizarding world so charming. Oculus reparo. This spell is quite famous among Harry Potter fans as it's the first proper piece of magic Hermione ever performs in front of Harry. And it's adorable. She waves her wand, says Oculus reparo, and Harry's cracked glasses are good as new. It's a sweet, memorable moment, but when you think about it, it's also kind of pointless. Why? Because reparo already exists, a general repair charm that can fix anything. The only reason Oculus reparo is different is that it's ultra-specific, like someone creating a spell that only works on toasters. To make things funnier, in the books, repairing spells can't even fix magical damage like when Harry's wand breaks. So this spell is limited to Muggle-level fixes. Hermione could have just said reparo. The only reason it exists, really, is to introduce Hermione's genius early on and give the audience a wow moment. After that, never used again. Not once. Coloportus. Locking doors with magic seems pretty handy, right? Well, that's until you realise there's a massive problem. The counterspell exists and is way too common. The moment you say Coloportus, you've sealed the door. But anyone who knows Alohomora, the unlocking charm every first year learns, can undo it instantly. So what's the point? It's like locking a door but taping the key to it. Sure, maybe it works against non-magical intruders, but this is a world where everyone carries a wand. You're better off using a Protego barrier or even a simple impedimenta to block passage. The only reason this spell feels memorable is because of that satisfying click sound effect in the movies. Beyond that, it's a spell that tries to sound secure, but is really just magical false confidence. Slugulus eructo. The slug vomiting spell is one of the grossest and funniest magical moments in the early films. Poor Ron points his broken wand at Malfoy, shouts, "Eat slugs," and the universe says, "Bet." He ends up puking up a trail of slimy slugs for minutes on end. So what makes this one useless? Well, for one thing, it's not even good at being cruel. It's disgusting, sure, but it's not deadly, disabling, or even practical. In a duel, you could use Stupefy, Expelliarmus, or literally anything else with more effect. This spell's main purpose is comic relief, a visual gag that fits the tone of early Harry Potter. It shows Ron's immaturity and how unpredictable magic can be when you don't know what you're doing. But in the grand scheme, let's be honest, if your best attack makes your enemy throw up slugs, you've already lost the fight. Aparecium. Now, this sounds useful, a revealing charm, but the way it works, or rather doesn't work, makes it completely redundant. Hermione tries it on Riddle's diary, expecting hidden text to appear. It doesn't. Nothing happens. Instead, it's Harry's direct interaction with the diary through magic linked to Voldemort's Horcrux that reveals the secret inside. So Aparecium does absolutely nothing. It's the spell equivalent of pressing a light switch in a power outage. You're trying, but it's hopeless. Even outside that scene, there's no evidence that Aparecium ever works properly. Wizards have other ways to reveal hidden messages, like Revelio or Hymenum Revelio, both of which are far more effective and actually used by experienced witches and wizards. So yes, Aparecium exists, but it's basically there to show effort, not results. Glissio. Glissio is used to turn staircases into slides, which sounds like fun until you remember Hogwarts is full of 100-foot stairwells and rotating steps. One wrong move and you're literally sliding to your death. In the movies, Hermione uses Glissio to escape from pursuers by sliding down stairs, which, okay, credit where it's due, looked cool. But other than that one clever escape, there's no real practical use. The funniest part? The girls' dormitory in Hogwarts already automatically turns its stairs into a slide if a boy tries to enter. So Glissio isn't even original, it's just a version of a built-in magical security system. Yes, it's stylish, it's flashy, it's even fun. But in any real-world wizarding scenario, Glissio is more theme park ride than survival tactic. Piertotum Locomotor. Piertotum Locomotor, aka the Move My Soldiers spell. McGonagall uses it to make all the suits of armour at Hogwarts come alive. It's one of those goosebump moments. But let's be honest, outside that scene, this spell's got nothing. You're not using Piertotum Locomotor to make breakfast or ace an exam. It's dramatic, loud, and completely overkill. You bring statues to life once, save the castle, and then what? Do they go back to collecting dust for another 100 years? It's like having a nuke in your backyard but never turning the key. Amazing to look at, zero everyday value. Still, give credit where it's due. McGonagall made it iconic. If useless spells had a queen, this would be her coronation moment. Duro. Duro is a spell that sounds way cooler than it actually is. Whatever you hit turns to stone. Sounds dangerous, right? Like some kind of instant Medusa power. Except, no. It's used once by Hermione on a tapestry, and sure, it worked. The tapestry turned into a stone wall to block pursuers. But after that, there's not much to it. The spell shows up, does its job, and vanishes from existence faster than Colin Creevy's camera flashes. It's the one-night stand of spells. Exciting for a moment, then gone without a trace. Locomotor wibbly. Locomotor wibbly is a lesser-known spell that weakens an opponent's legs, making them buckle or go limp. It's briefly mentioned in the books, but never plays a meaningful role in any major scene. In theory, it could be useful in a duel for disabling your opponent without doing real harm, but it's so inconsistent and underused that it's almost forgettable. We see far more effective spells used for the same purpose, like Petrificus Totalis or Stupefy, which completely immobilize a person rather than just making their knees wobbly. Because of that, Locomotor wibbly feels like a half measure, something that might have been taught in a Defense Against the Dark Arts class but never actually needed afterward. Vera evanesca. Vera evanesca is a spell that literally means snake vanish. You use it when you've got a snake problem. Snape uses it once, and only once, to make the snake disappear after Harry conjures it during the dueling club scene in Chamber of Secrets. And while it looks pretty sleek, the question remains, why does this exist? Couldn't Snape just use Evanesco, the standard vanishing spell that works on everything? Why create a snake-specific one? It's like having a spell that only makes spaghetti disappear. So yeah, Verpera evanesca has strong developer test code energy. It does one thing, works once, and never gets patched into the main story again. Point Me. Point Me, aka the 4-point spell. You hold your wand flat, say the words, and it points north. It's basically wizard GPS. Harry uses it once during the Triwizard Tournament maze. It's handy, sure, but let's be real, wizards can teleport, they can fly, they can summon whatever they need. So why on earth would anyone need a compass when you can just apparate to where you want to go? Yeah, it works, but it's just too outdated. Still, it fits that Harry Potter charm because it's a world where people can do impossible things but still struggle with the simplest ones. Point Me is a reminder that even wizards need directions sometimes, even if they're hilariously outdated. Waddiwasi. You know how every kid in school has that one-class clown who can hit the teacher with a paper ball from 20 feet away? Well, that's Waddiwasi, the wizarding equivalent of a slingshot, except it's magic. You point your wand, say Waddiwasi, and whatever small object is nearby goes flying like a bullet. In Prisoner of Azkaban, Professor Lupin uses it to shoot a wad of gum out of a keyhole and straight up heaves the poltergeist's nose. A legendary move. And then, never again. You'd think this spell could have some combat use, like firing rocks or marbles at an enemy. But no, it's a one-trick pony that's somehow too childish to matter and too random to rely on. At best, it's a prankster's dream, the kind of magic Fred and George would weaponize during lunch breaks. But in real magical terms, Waddiwasi is that spell you learn, laugh at once, and then forget ever existed. Still, it earns points for creativity. Sometimes Hogwarts just needed a little chaos. Tarantallegra. Tarantallegra is the spell that forces your legs to dance uncontrollably, as if you've just been cursed with rhythm against your will. It pops up a few times in the series. Draco uses it on Harry in Chamber of Secrets, and it's a fan favourite in dueling clubs because, honestly, it's hilarious. You get hit with Tarantallegra and suddenly you're doing the tango of your nightmares. It's chaos, it's comedy, and it's completely useless in any serious duel. Sure, it might throw your opponent off balance for a few seconds, but if you're fighting Death Eaters and your strategy is make them dance, well, you deserve whatever comes next. Obscuro. Obscuro is the spell that conjures a blindfold over someone's eyes. It's rare, so rare that it's used almost exclusively in lore and extended texts, not the main films. Basically, you cast it and a magical blindfold appears over your target's face or even across a painting's eyes. It's used once in the Deathly Hallows to blindfold a portrait so it can't spy on people. Now, that's kind of cool, but also incredibly niche. Why would anyone invent this instead of, say, a simple invisibility cloak or silencing charm? The idea's clever, but its purpose is so narrow it might as well be an inside joke. Like, hey, what if we could blindfold someone magically? Sure, why not? That'll never come up again. Still, it's got flair, it's mysterious, sleek, and cinematic, a spell that looks like it belongs in a spy movie more than a wizarding school. But as far as impact goes, it's all style, no substance.